Hi, I'm Suzanne Allison Davis, and I am here again to share with you in Straight Talk. I am the president of Greenville University and a very proud alum. I actually just got to share with my high school that I graduated from, a whole group, an auditorium full of students, about why I was excited about going to Greenville University. And we have a lot of noted alums, many of you, and even some that came from my hometown as well. I know they're real proud of Adam Crouch. I don't know if you're out there, but doing some amazing things in digital media. So I just came to talk with you, as I do with employees. For 2 years, we've been doing Straight Talks, which is essentially just in response to, during COVID, our employees wanted to just give it to me straight. Like, what is the challenge for today? What are we doing in the classroom? How are we doing testing or masking? And so we just called it Straight Talk. And we've been every Friday or every other Friday for the last 2 years meeting as employees on Zoom. And so we thought, well, we'll try this with employees and see if we can get some engagement from all of you, because it was a good time for us to just share challenging circumstances, wins across the campus, and things we were doing well, as well as just questions that people had. So what we'd like to have happen at this time is for you to use the comment section on the live stream, and you can ask questions. The sky's the limit, whatever you want to ask. You can share with other alums that you have in your circles that maybe don't know this is going on, or you can obviously the content or respond in that way. And so what we're trying to do is just encourage engagement with our alums, with the local community, with students, parents, those maybe who are just stakeholders or interested in Greenville University. Are all welcome to come and attend. And you can even private message the Greenville University page, and we will get your questions and try to respond throughout the presentation, but especially at the end, we will take some Q&A. So hopefully you'll engage with those functions on Facebook Live, and I'll try to remember to remind you to do so throughout the broadcast here. But really what I wanted to share today, and I think I talked a little bit about it last week, was the action plan that we're carrying out at the institution. And really, we call it an action plan because we don't want it to just be a strategy, a checkbox, or something that sits on the shelf. We want it to be something that we can see the actions building over time and in broad categories. And so I talked about the 3 I's, and again, I words, not I's, but the 3 I's being innovation, interconnectedness, and immersive, in terms of immersive experiential education. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about those. But really what we're trying to do is just build upon the mission of the institution of empowering students for lives of Christ-like character and service. And we've been doing that for 130 years. And so it really is just taking the good bones that we've had at Greenville and adapting and molding and shaping into the future. And so that's really the intent of this action plan, is to carry out the mission statement in a more profound way as we sit in our current society and how we are interacting with our students. So I'm just going to kind of talk about the 3 I's in a little bit more detail. And then next week and the weeks that follow, we'll continue to build on those things. So actually next week we will be in we'll be seeing a show of the CMC, which I'll talk a little bit about, a group that we have in Nashville who's touring right now. So we'll actually be in Chicago with the tour members, and we'll be hearing from Warren Pettit about our Nashville initiative. So that's next week. And then we'll hear the week after that from Breck Nelson and some of the things that are happening here in Greenville in terms of development, economic development, and construction and things like that. So we'll be meeting every Friday. Even on Good Friday, we will meet at 3:30 online, and you can join those sessions with us each week all the way through commencement. So that's the plan. So let me talk just a little bit about each of the I words, and feel free again to ask questions, comment, share, like the page, and then we'll know a little bit more about what you want to hear about and what's interesting. So first of all, with innovation, I think it's important to note that we're not just innovating without the premise of what our stake in the ground is. And remember, our stake in the ground is the mission statement, but it's also our relationship with the Free Methodist Church, because that's who created us in the beginning 130 years ago. And so I talked to the bishops and several years ago said, we really want to know, what does that mean for today? How do you see the church and the theology of the Free Methodist Church being relevant today? And the bishops, the church administration responded with what they call the Free Methodist Way. And I find that they're very helpful values. There's essentially 5 values that they've put together, and I'm going to share those with you, but you can find out more about those online if you'd like. But we're trying to figure out, okay, how does that now work with the affiliated institutions like Greenville University, and how we can live out those values in a university environment. So the first one is love-driven justice, or the first one I'm going to talk about. And of course, that makes sense because the Free Methodist Church has historically been an institution, and even through the colleges, an institution that reaches out and gets into society and makes sure that we're not Christ against culture, but Christ in culture, and always leaning into those who maybe don't have all the advantages that others do, and making sure that the poor, marginalized are part of our mission, and that those causes are supported. We also want to look at, and this is the second one, cross-cultural collaboration. That's something very important to Greenville University. As you know, we have reached out through our international program and have about 100 students here each year that come to us from all over the world. And that is just so missional. And you've heard me talk potentially about one of our bands, a worship team called Wahada, that means unity. And essentially these students come from 5 different countries, sing in different languages. And if you've ever heard them sing The Blessing by Carrie Job, it's just amazing. And so we believe that the kingdom of God is necessarily a global kingdom. It's for all people. And so we embrace that cross-cultural collaboration. That is the second element. The third one is Christ-compelled multiplication. So we want to make sure that we are salt and light in all areas of society, that we shine into even our own place here in Greenville, as well as other places across the world. And so we want to make sure that great commission is being fulfilled, that we are making disciples while the students are here in our care, but also as they go out, and as all of you go out as alums, you're still part of that multiplication, and we're excited about that. The other thing I think is largely overlooked in our society that I think the Free Methodist Church has done so well at describing is life-giving holiness. We believe in grace and truth, and we want to see people free of bondage and things that will just destroy. And so holiness is an idea. It's a big word. Of sanctification is what we sometimes use as a church word, but holiness is about life-giving. It's about freedom in Christ, and that freedom that is only found in holiness. I've heard it explained well to me that a lot of times the Free Methodist Church, the Wesleyan tradition, is the tradition of the both and, the holy conjunction, which is that holiness movement is kind of the stake in the ground, while this tether ball swings around and goes into the world casting salt and light. And in somewhere in there, we're doing both, right? We're the holiness tradition while going out. And so that tension is always difficult, but so relevant for today. And that's one of the reasons why we just want to have these talks, so that we can see what the both and looks like in our society today. And then finally, God-given revelation is the fifth value of the Free Methodist Way. And God-given revelation is through Scripture. That's our best source of God-given revelation. And so we look to Scripture, and we look to those orthodox views of the church, tradition, reason, experience. But Scripture is one of the things that we really want to, again, instill into our students, into our culture, and make sure that we're doing that in a way that's relevant today. So you might say, well, why is that innovative? Well, it's building off the good bones that we have and adapting what we know into the future. And so that's one of the things that our action plan does. But there's plenty of other things, and spiritual formation is very important. We are doing that through the Wednesday experience. I talked a little bit about that last week, where Pastor Hawkins encourages the students every week to go change the world, which I will in turn encourage you as well each week that we meet here online. But also through encounter and small groups and Vespers, we're looking at these Free Methodist values and thinking about how it applies today. But we have such a fire going on campus, so many amazing students that are engaging those opportunities. And the gym is just full every Wednesday while he talks and while our worship bands play. We also have a partnership with the Center for Pastoral Formation that builds on the Free Methodist values. And that's here actually in the Smart Center where I stand. And they're educating pastors across the nation, but also engaging with our students through a new initiative of co-vocational and entrepreneurship, and the way that ministry can be done as you serve and fill needs in a community. And so we're starting to think about what that looks like here in the Smart Center. Also, one of the things that I think has been pretty innovative, it maybe doesn't sound that innovative, but the way we do scholarshiping is all based now on our mission statement of character and service. So yes, test scores, GPAs matter. They have certain requirements, obviously, to get in, but we have students actually recording themselves on video, giving us essays, and we are starting to find that those stories that they tell us through video and essays about how they've overcome adversity and all sorts of things in their lives to get to this point, how our students are serving others already in so many various capacities. And so even before they come into Greenville, we're finding that propensity to look outside themselves, that resilience, that willingness to lead, whether it's a Women in Leadership Scholarship, or we call them Panther Scholars. We have scholarships that encourage women and diverse students and other students who have overcome diversity, and partnerships with organizations like the Salvation Army and places where we think these students are. And we are recruiting them with our scholarship dollars attached, and really essentially putting our money where our mouth is, because we want more students who are empowered for lives of Christ-like character and service. And selecting them is the first step of that. And so we have hundreds of students going through the scholarship program, and that's been amazing to just see. The other thing that is really innovative, that's kind of behind the scenes, but we have a partnership that we forged with a company called Dynamic Campus a few years ago. And it's really helped our data systems, which I know that doesn't sound super exciting, but our data systems are what make us able to serve students even better, whether it's through advising, whether it's through the recruitment process, whether it's just the degree path and how that works and how it interplays with student success and those students who need additional help, and just the data-driven decisions that we're able to make behind the scenes that's leading to that financial health and strength that I talked to you about last week. So that's a really exciting partnership. That kind of leads me into the next phase of what I'm talking about, that we are interconnected. So the second I, we have innovation, and we're interconnected. Again, if you have questions, feel free to type those in the comment section and I'll come back to it. But the second I is interconnected. And that means not just internally, because we do need to connect more with each other in a higher education environment. Oftentimes it's very siloed, and we want all of our programs to be very holistic for the student and interdisciplinary and interconnect. And so there's no student left behind in a sense. They're all getting this holistic experience emotionally, spiritually, educationally, obviously in the classroom, and even in their athletics. And we want to make sure we're tracking all of that. And so our ability to do that is through our data, but also just in the way that we interface with students. Now in the Experience Hub, which is the first floor you walk into in the library, we call it the Hub, and there's actually a welcome desk that says hello, because we found so many students, especially first gen students, don't know that you go to the records office to get this information, or you go to financial aid at this time of year, or whatever the question might be. You need tutoring. What events are there? How can you get involved? And so we have someone who literally sits at a welcome desk that says hello when they come in, and that way they can direct traffic to the right places so that they're getting the help that they need. And there's just one place that they can do that on campus, or that they can call. And so that welcome desk is providing more and more interconnectedness for our campus, at least as our students try to interface. And that also helps us with advising and retention, so that we make sure that students are being served well and advised well and given the services that they need, and being able to navigate if they're wanting to change majors or add an additional major or a minor, or just even talk about their gen ed and how that can be fulfilled. So it's really creating that atmosphere that every student here matters. Of course they do. They matter to us because they matter to God. And what happens in the classroom, outside of the classroom, we want that done with excellence, because that's our obligation to carry out the mission of the institution. The other thing is we connect externally. So I call it the power of three. Oftentimes when three entities come together, you find a win-win-win, and that benefits our students. So some of the examples of these external partnerships are St. John's School of Nursing is partnering with us. They've been in existence 136 years, and they're partnering with us and HSHS, which is the health system that's all around Illinois and Wisconsin. And we're partnering with them to offer nursing on our campus. And so it'll be the St. John's School of Nursing, and students will graduate with that degree, but they'll take their gen eds and many pre-nursing classes in their first 2 years from Greenville before they matriculate on to St. John's, but here on our campus. And so they won't necessarily feel that transition. And then HSHS has a network for their employment where they can go and do their clinicals and go right into a nursing career in so many of their hospitals right along the I-70 corridor or north as they choose. I've got a question about a new dorm and educational building and when that might be ready for students, because that actually does have to do with the nursing classrooms that St. John's will be utilizing on the first floor of a new building that will be real close to the town square where I'm at right now, along First Street and College Avenue. We're still working with the city on this, but it's a great example of a collaboration with the St. John's School of Nursing, the city, of course, to get new construction done, and of course, for the benefit of our students to have new dorms and student space, because we know that a lot of our age of facilities is prohibitive for students to come and enjoy. And so we want to make sure that they have a student space on the first floor along with the classroom and educational space. So they have food and all the things that are fun to do in that shared space, as well as the new residence halls that will allow for 248 of them to be in this newer facility than what we've had before. And that, just so you know, takes a lot of integration with the town. And so we're very thankful to Greenville. We have a lot of partnerships that are win-win-win with them. We've been dealing with a collaboration on getting a pocket park on College and Second and amphitheater and things that can be done there, and helped the city apply for that grant, as well as we have a co-position, actually, Lane McNamara, who serves both for the chamber and here at the Smart Center, so that the whole college and the community knows what's going on at each place. And so we've done concerts and things here in the Smart Center that we never would have maybe done before for the community, because of that partnership with the Chamber of Commerce and how tight we've been able to be with all of the businesses in town, as well as in all sorts of capacities with economic development. And so another thing that we're doing through the SMART initiatives is reaching out to other areas. Like I said, we're going to talk with Warren Pettit. Some of you know him, his team in Nashville that is really focused on the music industry and a shorter term experience for students. but definitely well connected and beginning to be salt and light in Nashville as well through our facility there, and a new partnership in Dallas with Faith Presbyterian Hospice, which is really going to be more of a healthcare, as you know, playing off our strengths in the music industry, as well as our strengths in biology in the health industry with pre-med and things that we've done really well for a long time. We're doing this healthcare venture with Faith Presbyterian, and that's going to be a really exciting program that we're building out over the next couple of years. But we will see in Dallas things that have to do with medical, social work, business, and even chaplaincy, and things that students can go and again get a very interdisciplinary experience together and do real world work that obviously matters when you're dealing with patients who are terminal illness, and that'll be an impactful time for our students, I'm sure. I have another question. It's a little off topic, if that's okay. How are we improving and being more diverse on campus? That is a great question. First of all, when we get to experiential learning, I will say that what we found from our diverse students is that they oftentimes have told us that they want real world experience, connections, a resume full of opportunities, and not just a degree, but a network that will last a lifetime, a community where they can thrive. And so we're taking a lot of those suggestions and putting them into our core curriculum and making sure those happen both in the UNIV curriculum, which is what everyone takes, as well as the majors. But that's not all. We're obviously doing more to recruit through Mosaic scholarships. That's a diverse student leadership scholarship, and that's been expanded, as well as in just the way that we are going towards character and service, and the way that we define that is much broader. So those things that maybe used to prohibit first generation students, or maybe students that come from a school that is not as connected to us in the inner city, or maybe just a situation where they need more scholarship dollars. And so we were looking at character and service and this idea of overcoming adversity. And we found that that's really led to a lot more diverse student population, not just in athletics, because a lot of times that was the case, is we were getting more diverse students through athletics, but we're really looking at the non-athlete diverse student and how they can lead. Again, our athletes lead on and off the court as well. But in that vein, we think that we're actually seeing more diversity than we ever had in our recruitment, above 30%. Last year, trending that way again this year for domestic diversity, and above 40% if you count international students in those diversity numbers, which of course they bring so much diversity to the campus in a little bit different way than domestic diversity. And so 42, 43% when you look at our funnels for diverse students. Very exciting, very outside the norm, I think, for Christian higher ed. And so we really want to lean into that, because of course, the kingdom of God is diverse. And going back to the Free Methodist way and the way that they're defining these values of cross-cultural collaboration, love-driven justice, those values are so strong for our society today. And we just think that that's going to continue to be relevant. One of the questions, and that's kind of going back to the first eye, is what are you doing to shape a culture of innovation and hire innovative people? That's a great question, because clearly the culture has to be collaborative and connection-based to be innovative and be looking outside and always looking for those opportunities. And so we have reorganized in a lot of our areas to do just that, to give us those opportunities that they're seeing, and then letting people explore those opportunities and see it through if that's something they're interested in. So those who are interested in international, doing more in that realm, those that are interested in student success and making sure that's just no student left behind, working towards that. So kind of a culture of choose your own adventure. I used to read those books growing up. I don't know, I really liked them, where you could kind of choose, and even doing that in the way that we ask employees about what they value in terms of, obviously salary is one thing, but a lot of people value more flexible time, or, you know, ways to integrate across the campus. Sometimes people like to be more face-to-face or more online. Sometimes it's just little things that we started asking through a job form, essentially, that what is it that it would speak to you, that we value you, that we want to engage to become more innovative? What would be the best incentives to do that? And so we've been asking our campus about that. And also the data systems that we're able to share makes us much more agile and nimble and collaborative in nature. And so that has helped out a ton in terms of a culture of innovation as well. So just to talk about a few more connections that we have, maybe you've heard that we're launching Gymnastics in partnership with the USAG, and some grants that were available and help to be able to launch a men's and women's gymnastics team, competitive gymnastics. We actually get to compete against Division I because there's not such division structures in gymnastics, and also start a community gym. So again, what we like to think about is how can we even think about these connections in a more innovative way? And we had people thinking, well, couldn't we serve the community if we did a community gym? So we have a director for that as well. And our student athletes will actually pour back into the lives of the students in this region, again, in a way that has character and service baked in, and will provide those needs for the community through gymnastics. So that's almost like a new ministry opportunity for these students to give back, get great experience, and do things in a partnership way. So going back to that culture of innovation, we could just do something that's more insular and only impacts the college, or we could look out and think, how could we do this more interconnected, more collaboratively, and maybe have kind of a 1 + 1 = 3 kind of situation, right? Where it's not just one entity and one entity gets a benefit, but because we're maximizing our resources and doing things collaboratively, we can actually have more, we can optimize our impact. So one of the questions coming in is, how can that actually cause GU to stand out in higher education? Oh my goodness, I just have so many people, so many college presidents, other administrators and faculty and staff across the nation ask us what we're doing, because it's just so evident that we're growing while others are shrinking. And I think a lot of this comes down to knowing who you are. When you know who you are, you'll know what to do. And you can't be something you're not, right? And so we're just taking those values and applying them, as well as making sure that every time we go to do something, we think to ourselves, what's the maximum impact? How could we collaborate? How could we connect? A lot of institutions have become a little bit like staring at their belly button, for lack of a better word, because we think about just how it's impacting us. But we're trying to get out of that. And even by our physical footprint being closer to the town square, we're trying to think, how can we create a win-win for those around us, whether it's in Nashville or it's in Dallas or it's right here in Greenville? How can we create that win-win for more people? And then our impact just expands. And of course, then those who want to enroll and continue their education expands as well. And for our students, they're having more connected experiences, more community-based experiences that leads them to having connections for a lifetime. So the idea is really that when you bring out a Greenville University card, or you wear your orange and black, I think this is orange, but you get your Greenville University sweatshirt out and you go to an airport, someone will look at that and say, I know Greenville University. I've partnered with them. I've been a student there. I've been a stakeholder in some way. And what I remember is that those people just ooze character, depth of character, and a propensity to serve others. And if that is what we're known for, that's actually the innovation. There's not a lot of institutions who are focused on that. And so that is what we're trying to do, to really stand out, to both connect internally, connect externally, even little things like, how do we use our greenhouse on campus that sometimes isn't completely used all seasons of the year? We have a company, a spinoff of a larger company called GrowPro, a spinoff of Syngenta, and they wanted to do wheat hybrids. And so our students are actually doing some wheat hybrid research. And that partnership is a neat way to show how a student can connect externally to alums who are running a company and do something here, get some great experience, and then take that out again and be connected already in agriculture and some of the things that we do there. A question coming in, and this is a great question, especially for this week. And the question is, how is GU supporting students of color and students of the LGBTQ plus community? It's a great question. I talked a little bit about the diversity earlier, so I'll focus on the LGBTQ. We've been talking with a student group that they wanted to be a student club. And as I said, it's difficult for Greenville University to be something that it hasn't been historically in an orthodox view of sexual orientation and gender identity. So we didn't do that student club, but the group of students who helped form this and talk to administration about some of the issues that they were facing, we wanted to make sure, because they're entrusting us with their education, that we are using the utmost care. And again, this is a really tough issue because, again, everyone in society is like, how do we deal with these situations where we're really in need of a both and solution? So one of the things that we offered, and in partnership actually with the Free Methodist Church, is a group called WITH, and the Free Methodist Church is defining that, but the letters stand for wholeness, image, togetherness, and hope. And even giving of their time and resources to have a partner who's assigned to us alongside an internal partner of a faculty staff member and students. And we're hoping that this can help us start to figure out, okay, we do have these sincerely held beliefs, like I said, that are of the historic church and of Greenville University for 130 years, and a thing can't be something it's not. But with that fact, truth, how do we handle this in grace and truth? Because John 1, I mean, if you think about that, to me, it sums it up, because the law came through Moses, and that was something, but grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. And that holy conjunction of grace and truth, the both and frankly, the messy middle, the via media, is part of the Free Methodist tradition. So we're trying to figure out, how do we approach students with all the grace and love that they deserve as individuals, while still standing in our traditional Orthodox views. And that's the institution, that's what we are, and that's who we are. And so how do we engage that conversation? Because we don't want to shy away from it. We want to engage. And so how do we balance this concept of individual rights, and we want students to learn and grow and study, with this whole concept of sincerely held beliefs of an institution that's held them for 130 years? So that's a really great question. I don't know that I have all the answers. I mean, if I did, yeah, I don't know, but I will say it's that tension of the both and being out there and being relevant in society while still holding to the anchor, this tether ball on a post kind of analogy of how do we exercise holiness and be socially Christ in culture, not against culture. It's a really tough call. So it's a great question. I encourage you to keep asking questions in the comment section. You can like, share, etc. Just continue to do that. But I'm going to go on to the third I word. So we've done innovative, we've done interconnected, and now the last one is immersive. So immersive experiential learning. What do we mean by that? Well, just this week, the faculty passed through a proposal for the UNIV, that's a course sequence of core curriculum that really is going to focus on serving, even in the very first year as freshmen. How do we serve in the community or as transfers? Vocation, what does vocation mean? Where does the world's need meet each of our students' individual skill sets and abilities and propensities to serve others? And so We're trying to do more with what is meaningful work, how do we work in teams, what kinds of real world projects can we pose to our students as they become juniors and seniors to help them hone those skills and make connections and work in a team and fulfill a project. And so we have lots of projects with entities around town as well as across the nation, actually launching products, working in social work entities like Eden's Glory, Simple Room, things that we have around town, as well as connections with a group that actually makes textile clothing in Haiti with women who are otherwise not able to make money. And so it's just amazing to see what our student groups have been able to do for sometimes big brand names and big organizations, as well as much smaller ones. So we even have a partnership working with a doggy play and stay. I can't remember the exact name, Double J, I think, yeah. And looking at how could we maybe even, have more events with animals on campus and help them with some of the things that they're doing. And obviously therapy animals have become very popular. What can we do with that? So there's a lot of cool things that the students are working on, and we think it's very important for them to see a project through, have a faculty member who's mentoring them through the process, and so that everyone is happy because they're getting students to connect with them externally, as well as our students are being mentored internally. The other thing we're working through for immersive student experiences are shorter term experiences. And like I said, Nashville is one example where students literally put together a whole tour. There's performers, there's tech, there's the comms or the marketing type promotion and logistics. And essentially they put on an amazing show and they go on tour. That is a semester-long experience. Again, students from all across the nation, from other CCCU schools come, but our students have opportunities there and in Dallas, as I was talking about, looking for other places where we might do what we call experience institutes, and maybe even partner internationally. And of course, already having international experiences for students is a impactful short-term experience. We also have we have the St. Louis trip that we've done for a long time. Well, it used to be Chicago, now St. Louis, that we do in what's called Theo 110, so a theology 100 level course. And now we're adding a trip to Washington, DC, thanks to the generosity of a donor that's allowing our students to actually go there and see many of the museums, the Holocaust Museum, the Museum of the Bible, other places there that are very impactful, and reflect on those things. So the idea is to experience things first and then have a whole class on the reflection and what does that actually mean for someone's own education, their own experience, their own sense of calling and vocation. The other thing I talked about that we want to make more immersive is just the whole atmosphere of the campus being a live, learn, work, play type environment, whether it's concerts that are here on the town square that we make available to the community, or work opportunities like we have in some of our restaurants, coffee shops, Panther Closet, which is an apparel, all these opportunities that students can have to actually gain experience and make obviously a little bit of money as they're here. We want hangout space, just a sense of place for students to thrive. And so that College and 2nd Street, or the College and Avenue, having a corridor to that atmosphere of live, learn, work, play is a key aspect of immersive experiential learning. I always say to new students, like, we don't want to wait until you're a senior for you to figure out whether or not you like the degree path that you've chosen, the major that you're in. We want you to have experiences early and often so that you know what your skills are, how you're uniquely gifted, what you like to do, and what you're good at, and how that might work itself out in your lives, not just your career, but your whole life. And so I'll say things, maybe it's a little flippant, but like, if you're going to go into criminal justice, you should go to prison in your very first year, because you will find out whether you like criminal justice if you go to prison, if you go to probation, and different things that our criminal justice folks make sure are part of the experiences early and often. If you're a social worker, you should work for some of the social organizations we have all across town that are doing amazing things, and see what you like. We can put you in places all across the nation, because so many of you are doing amazing ministries. And so what is it that you like or don't like about that? Serve at the Simple Room and do the after school tutoring with students that are maybe less privileged than you are. If you're a teacher, teach at KRP, at Kindergarten Readiness Program, or East St. Louis, again, where maybe there's some disadvantaged children that you can really help out, and see if you like filling that need. Start a business here in the Smart Center. If you're a business major, go on tour with the choir or pursuit team. Test milk at the milk house to see if you like biochem and how it plays out in the food industry. Do a clinical or just shadow at HSHS if you're thinking nursing. So there's so many things that we're trying to get students to think about early and often, to have these experiences and then reflect on them to decide, is this really where God's calling me? Is this my vocation? Is this where there's a great need in society that I can uniquely contribute to? So the last question that I have is, why is it called an action plan instead of a strategic plan? And that's a great question. I've just seen so many strategic plans that predict too far into the future. If you do this, this, and this will be the future. We're in a very turbulent time. You may notice with the pandemic, but even without the pandemic, people are questioning the value of a college education. They're questioning, which type of school, trade school, liberal arts school, what is it going to look like in the future? There's population differences that are on the horizon. And so we want to make sure that we have an action plan that can mold and shape and adapt as we go, and has these major themes though that are part of it, which is we will maintain the core values that we're based upon in the Free Methodist Church through the Free Methodist Way, and developing those things. We will, lean into our mission statement of empowering students for lives of character, Christ-like character and service. And we will make sure we're financially healthy, because we want to make sure that we have the resources to do everything with excellence. But the way we're going to do it, and that's the action part, is we have some things obviously on the table that we know we're going to do, but we're continuing to create that culture of innovation, that interconnectedness that is needed, and these immersive experiences. And to some extent, that's like an opportunity matrix, a radar, if you will, those 3 eyes that help us hone in on what is it we should be looking for, not just from administration standpoint, but what is it that alums see out there as opportunities, connections that they can make? What is it that students think is innovative, interconnected, and immersive? What is it that comes our way from the local community that might interplay, or a new partnership? What is it that a faculty member can get us a lead into that might be something that wasn't on the radar? So we have a 3-year plan, but there could be things that come in those 3 eyes that we don't even know about yet, that would really help us in the tumultuous environment that we find ourselves in higher education. So anyway, I want to close just by, again, what Pastor Hawkins says every week to all of our students, and that is, go change the world, GU. See you later.